Over the next 15 years, I'm committing myself to the pursuit of self mastery and the process of building a 9-figure company. Regarding self mastery, I'm starting as a man who is very prone to weakness, self deception, and addiction. When it comes to a business, I am starting from nothing. Welcome to Documenting the Climb, the series in which I'm showcasing every single success, failure, and insight gained during the pursuit. To give some context to this month, I am going to go through the progression system I've created to track and optimize both my personal growth and my business growth. For anyone who watched the last video, you would know that at this point in the process, my personal growth is taking priority because I think that is the first step first step to maximizing business growth is to kind of get my life together, my routines, my habits. So, with that being said, that is definitely what my progression system is largely built around at this point in time. When I look at this month as a whole, this month was pretty phenomenal. There were definitely failures along the way, but as a whole, the numbers were still very good compared to where I was 6 months ago, compared to where I was 3 months ago. I've split it into 4 categories: work input, finances, progressive behavior, and regressive behavior. With work inputs, I am following a system in which I'm starting pretty minimal on my input, especially with progress theory, because it's harder to do self-disciplined, completely unstructured work. And I'm just gradually increasing the workload as I succeed over time by increasing 10% per month. This month, I hit my goal for the amount of days I completed all my intended work hours, my job hours, my hours working on progress theory, and my integration self-development time. So I completed the goal in every single category, surpassed it in multiple. When it came to my finances, I went past my income goal for the month by 45%, which is pretty huge. Stayed just a little bit under my expense goal. My cash flow was very good as a result. When it came to my business finances, that was horrible on paper. I made $3 and spent $2,800, but at this point in time, there is really no revenue being generated, and I'm starting to invest some of the cash I've built up, trying to kind of get the business off the ground. And so while that number looks pretty terrible, it's just kind of where I'm at in the process. It's going to be a lot more money going into the business than being produced by it, and that is okay. And when it comes to the liquid cash I have access to, I am about $2,500 past where I wanted to be at this point, which is awesome. I am stacking up cash. That gives me some breathing room to not only make sure I'm emotionally stable and just have some room to grow if any sort of emergencies happen, but I'm starting to now get to the point where I can take some of that money and invest it in the company, which is huge. It's very exciting. Progressive behavior is where I saw a bit of a loss compared to the last few months. This has been the category in which I've seen the most success by far over the last 6 months. And I still largely did really well, but I did not hit my goal in any of the physiological areas. When it came to exercise, stretching, and nutrition, I missed the goal by 2% to 12%, which isn't huge, but that does showcase that I'm starting to kind of push myself a little bit, and I need some more time to stabilize the routines. Specifically, the end of the month, I saw a lot more compulsivity and a lot less structure with these. I really missed this goal in the last week of the month. And then my regressive behavior, that was largely awesome when it came to actively reframing my thoughts. I hit 88 of 90 opportunities. When it came to overcoming procrastination, I did that on 19 of 21 days, so that my hours spent procrastinating was less than half. 19 of 21 opportunities. When it came to urges to consume porn, which is the most destructive behavior that I've struggled with and continue to struggle with, not like I did. 9 of 9, that's over 3 months without any sort of porn consumption. That is huge. overall, when I look at the numbers, especially when I compare it to where I was like about 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, this is substantial progress. I'm starting to see things snowball. The areas where I saw the most regression this month, specifically with the progressive behavior, it was largely because I took a trip that was not really incorporated into the program. It was not planned in advance, and I tried to stay productive on that trip, and I just kind of failed to do so. But honestly, there was more regressive behavior that occurred this month than this demonstrates, because I was only tracking porn, procrastination, and active reframes. But I reintroduced gaming into my life, and I started to struggle with some compulsivity with food, and going well past my nutrition plan. The days where I broke my nutrition, I really broke my nutrition on some of them. And so that definitely scared me. I saw some of those same addictive tendencies, those same patterns start to rear back up in other ways. When it came to the gaming, there was 3 or 4 nights where I stayed up till 4 to 8 in the morning, and kind of let my routine collapse. And the main thing that was sacrificed was sleep, which is not something I'm tracking yet, but that is a big deal, and that is real regression. So just because of what I was actually tracking, the compulsivity that I experienced this month isn't really on display here, but there was more of it than I would like. But as a whole, even though there was some addictive tendencies on display, even though there was some breakdown in structure in certain areas, this was a fantastic month. I feel like progression did occur. My overall score for the month, which I've attached quantifiable scores and values to every single behavior, and so that I can kind of see almost like a XP system over time. I can see the trends in my score going up and down. I can kind of compete against myself. My score for the month was 300 more than my score for the last month. And last month was the best month of my life. So that still feel awesome about the direction I am going in. And that brings me to the lessons I actually learned this month. There were 3 main insights that I want to talk about from my experience this month trying to build myself and trying to build the business. 2 of the insights revolve more around self-mastery. One of them revolves more around business. When it comes to self-mastery, the first insight that really revealed itself this month, and it's something I already knew, but it just demonstrated itself again very clearly, is that compulsive tendencies and addiction is the same exact process, just channeled towards different behaviors. I have largely reduced and almost eliminated the more destructive behaviors that really caused a lot of damage to my life, which was porn and weed. Those completely derailed me, caused an immense amount of destruction in my life, and I have largely removed them. But these same tendencies have now shifted towards things like food and video games and TV shows. Those are the things that my urges are pushing me towards and that are causing more minor and less destructive, but still damaging, regressive, addictive cycles. And the process is this: every time I engage in a behavior, I give into an urge to do something that's stimulating and gratifying and feels really good. Doing that in excess causes me to feel fear and shame, causes me to start telling myself pretty distressing stories about what does this mean? Am I going to collapse? Is this going to cause a lot of damage? Am I going to go back to who I was? And it causes a pretty rapid identity breakdown where I was thinking of myself as an extremely disciplined person who was making an extreme amount of progress, and suddenly my behavior causes that identity to erode, and I'm back to being the addict, the guy that is very fragile and very prone to breakdowns. And as these negative outcomes come into display, all the negative emotions, the stories, the identity breakdown, as those come to fruition, it's pretty distressing, and my mind starts reaching out for more escape by going back to the same behaviors. And then I do the behaviors again, and it just creates this spiral. And I think the solution that's very obvious to me when I'm not really in the spiral is that all of those negative things that cause extreme compulsive behavior and cycles come down to thoughts and emotions. And the problem is, instead of separating myself from the thoughts and emotions and recognize them as illusory things that are not actually attached to my identity, they aren't who I am. And if I just separate from them, they disappear very quickly. I try to battle them and I engage with them and I try to convince myself the story's not true. And I try to run away from the fear or try to fight it. And fighting it just causes an internal tension, an internal battle that gives it more power and fuels the process. The solution to addiction is largely, from my experience at least, about recognizing the emotions and the stories and the thoughts as emotions, stories, and thoughts, and just kind of detaching from them and letting them disappear. Because if not acted upon and recognized as something that's separate from who you are, they all just fade very quickly. And when I start to spiral, it's because I'm losing sight of that. I start to really engage with these negative behaviors, and that gives them way more power than they need to have. So I'm going to start trying to take the tools and the principles I've used for porn and weed that have given me so much success and really start just incorporating those into any sort of urges I feel throughout the day, throughout my life. Like I said earlier, I went on a trip in the last week of this month. That is kind of where I saw the most regression, at least when it comes to routines, or at least the most breakdown in structure, I should say. And it kind of showed me a lesson because I went into this in order to kind of relax, have fun, hang out with some friends I hadn't seen for a while. And with that being the goal, I also tried to maintain my productivity and I tried to keep making progress. And I largely kind of failed at both because I was stressed out about the fact that I wasn't making that much progress because I was hanging out with my friends and having fun. But I was trying to hang out with my friends and have fun, and I wasn't really doing that successfully because I was too focused on trying to maintain my productivity. And I think that is just the wrong approach. I think a better way to live life is to decide when it's time to work and to be productive and to make progress, and when it's time to have fun and prioritize joy and exploration and socialization and go all in on that thing. And so moving forward, it's going to be periods that are selected to be about work and productivity, and progression is the dominant pursuit during those periods. And there are going to be periods that are about joy and exploration, having fun, relaxing, kind of enjoying the fruits of my labor. And during that time, the only routines, the only commitments I have are just maintaining boundaries so that I don't experience extreme regression. Just maintaining what I built instead of trying to build upon it or let it collapse. Because I don't want to walk away from these periods kind of how I did this time, thinking, wow, I actually experienced a lot of regression and now I have to spend the next 2-3 weeks making up for that. But I also don't want to never have fun because I'm just obsessed with productivity. So the goal is to determine what the purpose of the period I'm in is and do that thing completely. Now, the insight when it comes to business. This month, as I have started to really put more time into progress theory, I've been a lot more consistent with input towards progress theory for the last 2 months. I have started to really assess how do I actually build this into a business, because it's been more of just a project in a series of ideas that I've taken very seriously internally, but I've failed to actually create any sort of plan for turning this into a real legitimate business. And I started to really try to plan that out, and I've been stuck between two different paths. The indecision in those two paths has created a lot of stagnation because I've spent most of my work time just thinking about what to do next instead of actually doing something that creates momentum and creates forward trajectory. When it comes to progress theory as a business, the goal is to develop 3 different components: media, coaching, and a program. The actual revenue generation is largely going to come from the program component, which I want to eventually build a subscription-based model that is essentially an online university where there are a myriad of courses built around human transformation, growth, and positive change. And there is a community component where people can support each other, can ask for help from each other, can just a community built around growth. And then also having a group coaching component of that, where there's like interactive guidance. And that will be the ultimate scalable revenue model for Progress Theory. Then there's the direct coaching, which is higher ticket, but way less scalable. And then there's the media, which is built around providing free value, building a brand based around transparency and authenticity and growth, trying to build a brand that reflects the company that I'm trying to create, that reflects the positive impact I'm trying to have, and turning that into an organic marketing engine to create lead flow into the actual revenue generation aspects of the company. I am pretty limited on my time. I spend about 40 hours a week on a full-time job. And given that, time is the thing that's really going to allow for growth. Like, my time is the most valuable resource I have right now. That is the thing that will really compound when it comes to creating a business. And trying to identify the highest ROI use of my time seems like the most important thing I can be doing right now. But with only having 15 to 20 hours a week, that time is very limited. And if I try to allocate it to too many different components, I'm going to completely destroy the compounding effect of my time in all regards and ultimately slow down my growth. So it seems to me that the most important step at this point is to start generating enough revenue that I can reduce my hours at my job, buy back more time for Progress Theory, and drastically increase the amount of time I'm actually inputting into the company. And looking at that, I'm torn between two different paths. One is prioritizing the development of one more niche, more streamlined course at a lower ticket value, using that to generate both revenue and to generate the skill sets that will go into Progress Theory, like marketing, sales, course development, product servicing, community servicing, all the different skill sets that will go into this type of business. The other path is one in which I focus all of my efforts on Progress Theory Media, building an audience, building a brand, figuring out how to generate free value that causes people to come back and keep watching my content and start to build some audience loyalty. That way, once that is built, that is organic lead generation. It's an engine for marketing that compounds tremendously once it actually gets up and running. But it takes a lot longer to get up and running. So the real debate is whether it's better to focus most of my time into a actual streamlined business model where it's marketing funnel to landing page to sales to one course / micro program that I sell and service, and create a business model, trying to get up to $10,000 a month roughly in revenue, use that to quit my job and go full time in this. And once I can go full time, focus a lot more time into the highest ROI long-term activity, which is the media. Or should I just put all my time into the media generation for now, recognize that it might take 2, 3, 4 years before that grows to the point where it starts to create real substantial lead flow. But once it's created, then go all in on Progress Theory at a point where the compounding is really starting to carry me forward. And I'm leaning towards the course because I think it develops more significant business skill sets up front. And if there is any potential that I can get to full-time work input with Progress Theory 6 months faster or a year faster, I think the overall increase in time input that will give me will scale a lot faster. But I have a tendency to sit in indecision and not. I'll sit there, I'll try to figure out the best course of action with perfect certainty because I'm terrified of making a mistake. And then I'll end up wasting a significant amount of time sitting there in analysis paralysis instead of just making a decision and moving forward and testing it and then measuring the result and shifting accordingly. And so the solution I have tried to create is a decision-making framework that ensures that I'm thinking through the process effectively, but I'm constrained to a defined time deadline so that I have this amount of time. One, I can decide how important is this decision? How long will it impact me? How reversible is it? How costly is a mistake in this area? If it's not very costly, just think it through for 3 days and then take action. Set a defined deadline and move forward. So I've built that. I have defined the timeline to 3 days from now where I will make this decision, and I will probably commit to it for 6 months in order to give it a fair chance and then analyze my results and maybe shift accordingly. Either way, at this point in time, I just want to take the business more seriously. I find that is the most fulfilling part of my life at this point. I really enjoy the time I get to spend working on that, and I would love to be able to increase that, move into that full time, and really go all in on this process of building a business. So that has been the month. Hopefully those insights might generate some value for you, might help you create a little bit of growth in your life. But if not, hopefully the insights moving forward as I continue trying to master myself and build a business could be of some value. If you are interested in progress theory and trying to learn more about how it can help create positive change or growth in your life, I just started building out the website. I'm going to put the link in the description of these videos. I'm going to put the link in the bio. Feel free to check that out. You can see about free one-on-one coaching at this point in time, or you can start looking into some of the tools I'm creating. Or if you just want to kind of keep up with this journey, check back every once in a while, see if I'm actually doing anything. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep posting these videos. Even if it takes a couple years for anyone to care, I am committed. I am doing this. So feel free to subscribe and check back. So until next time, I wish you all the growth and progress that you are looking for in your life. See you next time.